Going on, everybody? It's Grant here with another Mystic MMA breakdown for the upcoming UFC Fight Night 246, Moreno versus Albazi, which takes place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, this November 2nd, 2024. Decent night of fights, about what I would expect for a fight night nowadays that the UFC is putting together. Headlined by Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi, which is a pretty good fight. Pretty entertaining fight, so I'm excited to see how that one plays out. But starting out the night, fight number one will be jamey-lyn versus Ivana Petrovic. This one's a tough one, especially starting out the night. I feel like Ivana Petrovic, she's a former K1 kickboxer. Good size, good reach, long for the division. Just don't feel like she has the most power. Don't see her hurting her opponents very, very often in her fights. I think jamey-lyn I think she's just going to be the bigger, stronger fighter in this one. I see her being able to push the pace, kind of taking control of the fight, and honestly just winning by decision more than likely. This one's a difficult one to start out, but I do think that she's going to be too much for Ivana Petrovic, just in terms of size and skill. So going to go with jamey-lyn in this one to win by decision. Next up is Chad Anheliger versus Cody Gibson. This one's difficult too. I like Chad Anheliger. Had a great performance in one of his last fights. I think it was against Gregorio Charalampos. Yeah, had a great gritty fight in that. Showed a lot of heart. He's got the faux mullet, just like myself, so hard to root against the guy. Has a lot of heart. I believe he runs his own gym, head coach of a lot of fighters. Great footwork, great feints in and out. He's just very undersized for that division, I feel like. But he's able to stay in the fight. He's able to bring the fight to a lot of these bigger guys, the Jose Johnsons of the division, the 6-foot weight bullies who are fighting at 125 still. So I like that he has that. I just feel like he's going to be too undersized in this fight against Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson's a big guy. He's like 5'10" for the division. 30 professional fights, 20-10. Great pace. Great fight against Brad Katona not too long ago where they were just going tit for tat, pushing the pace the entire time. I just think that Cody's going to be too big for him. Going to be able to get the takedowns, mix in the takedowns when he needs to. Going to be able to keep the distance on the feet and beat him up. I think that Chad Anheliger gives up a lot of positions going for submissions. In his past fights, I saw him go for a lot of guillotines when people are shooting for submissions or when he has the ability to do that. And this just isn't a jiu-jitsu match, so he gives up bottom position a lot against other fighters, which isn't good when you spend the rest of the round on your back, and plus you're the smaller guy. So love to see Chad Anheliger win, but I just feel like this is a bad matchup for him against Cody Gibson, the more experienced, bigger, stronger fighter. So I'll go with Cody Gibson on that one. Up the card, we've got Sergey Cide versus Garrett Armfield. Garrett Armfield, another really gritty dude. Saw him fight David Onama a few times when they were amateurs, actually, and then when they were pros. Very tough kid, great stand-up, scrappy. I just feel like Sergey Cide is on a different level. He's a much bigger fighter of Ukrainian-Russian descent. So a tough guy, I would say. Had a very close decision with Ramon Taveras. Had beat Ramon Taveras on the Contender Series by knockout before that, but there's no shame in losing to Taveras. He's a very tough opponent, but I just see Sergey Cide being able to control the distance, hurt him on the feet, and do just enough to either win the rounds or to hurt him and put him out. So I definitely see Sergey Cide taking this one. I know he's a small favorite. Honestly, don't think that Garrett Armfield's a bad dog if you're looking to gamble on these, but I'm going to have to go with Sergey Cide just in terms of his power on the feet, his grittiness on the feet, and just his size advantage. So next one's up. This is an interesting one. This is Alexander Romanov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Alexander Romanov has had a career full of fighting cans. He's been fraud checked in the UFC now against Marcin Tybura. He lost a decision, but then looked very bad against Alexander Volkov. Seems like whenever he meets any type of resistance, he kind of crumbles and fades away. So he's not easy. He's not good at being the nail. If he's not constantly winning the fight, you're going to see him crumble. He came back, beat Blago Ivanov, which is not impressive. I don't rate that win very high. And then he lost immediately against Jailton Almeida, which is it's Jailton Almeida. He's a big dude. He's a very skilled grappler, but I'd just like to see a little bit more tenacity and perseverance out of a guy who's 17-3, fighting a heavyweight. And he's going up against Rodrigo Yogi Bear Nascimento. He recently just fought against Derek Lewis. Was surprised at how well Derek Lewis was able to control the grappling sequences in that fight. He did get taken down a few times in that fight, and I'll get to that later with the Derek Lewis fight. But I just think that he's got the grit, the striking, and the tenacity to stay in Romanov's face, and either get him to quit and to crumble, or to be able to do just enough to win the rounds and squeak by a decision against Romanov. I think that we'll see a lot of grappling exchanges at the beginning. I think that'll dictate the rest of the fight, depending on how Romanov wins those exchanges. If we see him having success, then I think that bids well for him going down the line. But if it's competitive or if it's very grueling first round, I can see him crumbling and fading rounds 2 and 3. So I can see Rodrigo Nascimento winning a decision, winning the last 2 or 3 rounds, or getting a finish as Romanov starts to cave like he always does when he's not fighting an absolute can. So not impressed by Romanov, not impressed by Nascimento either, but I feel like he's a solid enough fighter to give Romanov a run for his money. So I'm going to go with Nascimento in that one. Next one up is Jack Shore versus Youssef Zalal. Youssef Zalal, the Moroccan Devil, I think his name was, used to be in the UFC, had a bit of a losing streak there, but when you look at it, I think he lost to Ilia Topuria. Lost to another guy, didn't rank very high, not a very good look, losing to, who is it, Sungwoo Choi, not a great look, and then lost to Sean Woodson, split decision. That's not a bad loss. Sean Woodson's a big dude for that division. Weirdly framed body style, alien body style of him, just has crazy range and length for 145. So no shame in that loss, but did go to a draw, majority draw with him on Blackshear, which I think that he won that fight. I don't know how that was a draw. You would think that just the damage that he was doing in that fight, that he would have won that fight, but for some reason he got cut. Went on a 3-fight winning streak outside the promotion, and then came back and fought Billy Quarantillo, where he looked like an absolute world beater. Looked great. Whole first round, ended up finishing him the second round, and then just put it on Jarno Aarons. Finished him with a rear naked choke first round. So I think that Youssef Zalal is the better all-around fighter. Jack Shore, I just feel like he's kind of a little slow on the feet. I just feel like Zalal's better everywhere. Trains at Factory X in Colorado, so he's got the cardio, he's got the training partners. He just has more of the swagger. Coming off of a 5-fight winning streak, so if you're looking to bet, I would definitely put a bet on Zalal winning by finish. Just looks very reinvigorated being back into the UFC. Only 28, so not even coming into his prime yet. Has the confidence knowing that he can go 3 full rounds with Ilia Topuria and not get finished. We know Ilia's going on a run right now, destroying a lot of people. Another key thing I think is going to be big is Youssef Zalal's got good kicks. Jack Shore is coming off of a TKO loss to leg kicks to Joe Anderson Brito, where he had a huge, looked like a gunshot wound in his calf. So I know that he's going to be tentative taking those leg kicks. I know he's not going to be confident in checking leg kicks coming in, and that was back in May. So I think that'll be a key. I mean, Zalal would be stupid not to target that leg. Make him think leg kicks, go high with head kicks. I know he has great kicks. Dropped him on Blackshear with a body kick. So I imagine he pieces up Jack Shore, wins by finish or decision. So next fight is Charles Jourdain versus Victor Henry. I like Charles Jourdain. I hated to see him lose against Gene Silva, but Gene Silva is no joke. I feel like that dude's got a bright future in the UFC. So hate to see him coming off of a KO loss just only back in June. I just don't think that Victor Henry has any power or skill to hurt him on the feet, honestly. Victor Henry's I feel like he's kind of an older fighter, pushes a good pace, but he was struggling in his most recent fight against Javid Basharat, and I think Charles Jourdain's got the same length and reach that Basharat has, but I think that he's got more skills and more ability to finish the fight and more ability to hurt his opponent on the feet than Javid Basharat does. He's got great kicks, light on his feet, legit black belt in jiu-jitsu to combat Victor Henry's jiu-jitsu black belt. And he's able to threaten off his back. He's very offensive in the guard, doesn't just lay there, doesn't just accept bottom position and lose the round. So I think he can outstrike Henry on the feet, capitalize on Henry if he wants to wrestle, if he wants to catch wrestle. I think he's got the grappling ability to negate that. He's always looking for the guillotine choke and scrambles. I think he just beat recently Ricardo Ramos by guillotine choke. So I just think Jourdain's going to be too good, too well-rounded. My concern with him is that he is moving down from 145 to 135, but I didn't think that he was the biggest 145er anyways. So being 5'9" at 135, fighting the older guy, the older opponent, I think that Charles Jourdain's got this one in the bag. So we'll see. Next up, I think it's Jasudavicius. Yes, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Ariane Lipski. Ariane Lipski, she's good. She's got good striking. I think she's long for the division. She's got good submissions. She's got a few submission wins. Just submitted Casey O'Neill, which is a really good feather in the cap. Casey O'Neill's no slouch on the ground. But she has lost by TKO and submission a few times. So I just think that Jasmine Jasudavicius is just going to be too aggressive, too big for her to manage. I think she's going to be able to push the pace on the feet, dictate where the fight is, get her takedowns, and just win rounds en route to a decision win in that one. So I'm going to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius with the win. I think another thing we need to take into account here is that with it being in Canada, we got a lot of Canadian fighters on the card. The UFC is going to give these Canadian fighters fights that they can win. And I think that's something that we have to take into account, that favorable matchups for the hometown fighters. You're also going to have Canadian judges, more than likely some Canadian refs in there. So that's always something that you got to take into account. Next up, speaking of Canadian fighters, Ayman Zahabi versus Pedro Munoz. Zahabi, wasn't too sure about this guy. I know that he got spinning back fisted by Ricardo Ramos several years ago. Then he lost a decision to Vince Morales, who's kind of a 50-50 fighter, but ever since then he's gone on a 4-0 run. Just recently beat Javid Basharat, who I know is no slouch on the feet. Him and his brother, pretty talented guys, come from good gym, good training partners. And I think a big thing is Zahabi's older brother is Faraz Zahabi, who is the infamous head coach of George St. Pierre. So comes from a great gym, great head coach, probably one of the best minds in the game. And he's fighting Pedro Munoz, who just hasn't been the most impressive. He's very talented. He's very durable and tough. I don't know if he's ever been finished. I mean, every one of his losses is a decision or a split decision. So very tough guy. He's just 38. I just don't think he has it in him to take on these young up-and-comers anymore. Recently lost to Marlon Vera, which I don't rate very high. I don't think Marlon Vera is as talented as people think that he is. So I think that Ayman Zahabi, he's going to come in with a great game plan. He's going to pick apart Pedro on the feet, not look for takedowns. I think that he knows that that's going to be not the route to winning, is trying to take down Pedro Munoz. I think the strategy to beat him is to stay long, pick him apart on the feet, look for a decision win. And I think that's what's going to happen. So next up, Mike Malott versus Trevin Giles. Mike Malott getting TKO'd by Neil Magny is not a good look. Not a good look at all. Old man Neil Magny should not be TKOing young and upcoming prospects. But I think that he gassed in that fight. I think he'll learn from that. I think he's so used to just running through people. What is this? He was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight finishing streak heading into that, almost all of them in the first round. So I think when he runs into somebody who's a crafty veteran, tough as nails, has the cardio, has been the distance, has the experience, I think he just kind of ran into something he wasn't ready for, and ended up just crumbling to the pressure and fading in the later rounds. So I think he's going to learn from that. I think that he's pretty powerful on the feet, very big for the division. I think he'll have the grappling advantage over Trevin Giles and just willing to make it gritty, and mix his takedowns ends with his powerful punches and kicks. Giles is just kind of a 50-50 fighter. What is he? He's coming off of a KO loss to Carlos Prates, which, nothing wrong with that. Submission loss to Gabriel Bonfim. I don't rate any of his wins. I feel like anytime he takes a fight with somebody who's remotely high level, he gets finished, apparently, looking at his record. So I think that Mike Malott is going to pressure him on the feet, look to do damage on the feet with punches, secure the takedowns, look for the submission. So I think Mike Malott wins this one. I think this is another one of those favorable matchups for the hometown boy. So we'll see. Next up, Marc-Andre Barriault versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Not impressed by Dustin Stoltzfus. I feel like he's got good kicks, but I feel like all he does is kick. He's got good teep kicks. He throws a overhand right that sometimes lands just because it's so obvious and awful. He has a good high crotch and dump people onto the ground with his takedown. I saw him do that against, obviously he did against Joe Pyfer, dislocated his elbow with that one. Did it to Punahele Soriano, but Soriano's just a striker. Doesn't really have much of a grappling game, I would say, but I just think Barriault, he's called, the power bar. He's got a lot of cardio, bigger, stronger guy. He's not afraid to grapple, not afraid to push the pace, and has decent striking. Good body kick, good left hand, snappy jab. I know he's able to throw a body kick right hand, knock down Eric Anders at the very beginning of their fight. So Eric Anders was able to come back and kind of make it a really gritty fight, but Barriault was able to pull out the win in that one. But Stoltz was more of a jiu-jitsu guy. I just don't think that he's going to find any success against Barriault, who's got good grappling. He's the bigger guy. I don't think he's going to catch him sleeping because he's gets tired by any means. So I'm going to go with Barriault grinding out a win here, beating up Stoltzfus on the face, mixing his takedowns, winning a decision. So next up is Cal Machado versus Brinson Ribeiro. I remember Brinson Ribeiro. I think he came in on the UFC Contender Series, looked like a scary dude. What he do? Yeah, he had a first-round KO. But then after that, he got KO'd by Ming Yang Zong. It's not a terrible look, but then he had a pretty back-and-forth fight with Magomed Gadzhiev. That was an interesting fight. I feel like Ribeiro, he has more power. He shoots takedowns when he needs to. He took down the Dagestani fighter in Gadzhiev, made that one ugly. Great leg kicks. I think he hurt Gadzhiev with one of those leg kicks. He does get a little bit crazy in times, make some stupid decisions. He is a little bit chinny, but I just feel like Cal Machado, he's fought at light heavyweight and heavyweight, but he's just a fat middleweight. Like, I think if he took his career seriously, he could make it down to 185 at least. But he literally has 2 wins against a 53-year-old on his record, which is just embarrassing. I don't know how a commission approves that type of fight, but awful fight on Contender Series, won a decision. Not sure why he's in the UFC. Not sure why he's a favorite. I believe I don't have the odds in front of me, but I believe he is a small favorite. So, if you're looking to bet on a dog, I think Brinson Ribeiro is a good dog in this instance. So I'm going to go with Brinson Ribeiro by KO submission or decision. So cover all my bases right there. Next up, Derek Lewis versus Shonata Denise. I initially wanted to go with Denise. I think Derek Lewis, every time I think Derek Lewis is at the end of his career, he puts on a fight like he did against Nascimento. Just doesn't seem like he is winning fights against any high-level caliber fighters as of late. You can't be losing to Tai Tuivasa and Sergey Spivak within the last year or two. and expect me to have much faith in you. But he did have a boring decision against Jailton Almeida. Granted, he didn't get finished, but I believe he was dealing with a shoulder injury. And he's also just not known for the grappling, so I don't know why he accepted that fight. That's just an awful matchup for him. But he did look good against Rodrigo Nascimento, mixing it up on the feet, landing hard punches, getting takedowns. He had some good, I think it was foot sweeps or lateral drops against Nascimento, just really making it gritty and dirty, and eventually being able to finish him with strikes due to that. And I just think Jonathan Diniz, he's only been in MMA for about a couple of years now. He won't be the smaller fighter. They'll be about the same size, but Diniz, he's on a 8 fight win streak, 7 finishes. But all of those are finishing within the first round other than one against Austin Lane. And then his only decision was against Carl Williams, where he did look like he was gassing towards the end of that fight. So I think Derek Lewis he's not going to just sit there and strike with this guy who's a one-dimensional guy. Like I said, only been in MMA 2 years, probably doesn't have a lot of grappling, doesn't have a lot of experience. Derek Lewis is one of the most experienced guys in the game with 40 professional fights, like 12 main events in the UFC now, I think it was. But so I think Derek Lewis is going to make it an ugly fight. He's going to shoot takedowns. He's going to take Jonata. He's going to push him up against the fence, get him tired, beat up the body, get the blood surging into his arm so that he's loses that pop into striking. So I definitely see Derek Lewis making it ugly. Would not be surprised to see him take him to the ground the first round and a half, tire him out, then beat him up, knock him out on the feet. Or I wouldn't be surprised to see him finish him on the ground. I think that if Derek Lewis can get Jonathan Diniz onto the ground, get him remotely tired, I don't see Diniz being able to get up, and I can see a Derek Lewis TKO via ground and pound. So good dog, and Derek Lewis, small dog, but I'd put some money on him. Next fight, Erin Blanchfield versus Rose Namajunas. I think Erin Blanchfield, great grappling, probably one of the best female grapplers we have in the game right now. We did see her kind of get exposed against Manon Fiorot in her last fight. Granted, Manon's one of the best strikers. She's probably one of the best female strikers in the UFC as well, but definitely exposed Erin Blanchfield and showing that she's got a big hole in her game. And that hole in her game that she has is something that Rose Namajunas does very well. I feel like Rose Namajunas, she has the striking. She's also lighter on her feet, better footwork, better kicks than Manon Fiorot. So she's also not a slouch in the grappling department. I know that she did a grappling match against Jillian Robertson and got tapped immediately. But I do think that she is defensively sound on the ground enough to be safe, get back up to her feet if it does go to the ground. I think she's got definitely has the advantage on the feet to keep Erin Blanchfield honest, keep her off of her, win rounds, point strike, that type of thing. So I see Rose Namajunas, maybe she gets taken down, loses a round or so, but I definitely see her being able to keep it on the feet, outpoint Erin Blanchfield, and win a decision. Another dog, small dog there, so going to go with Rose Namajunas in this one. Main event, Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. First glance at this fight, was thinking Amir Albazi was gonna win it, but after watching footage, I think that Brandon Moreno takes it. Amir Albazi, he's aggressive, forward pressure on the feet, and powerful striking. Great jiu-jitsu offensively and defensively. Great lead uppercut. I think he dropped Alexander Costa with the uppercut, and I know he was effective with it against Kai Kara France as well. But great top pressure on the ground, able to maintain position and do damage. I just don't think if he can take down Moreno that he's going to be able to keep him down. I think Brandon Moreno does great from the guard, throwing elbows, throwing up submissions, causing a lot of scrambles so that he can get back up to his feet. So Moreno has a gas tank, and he's willing to make it ugly. We saw him against Davison Figueiredo several times where he's just able to push the pace, have little regard for the other fighters' punching power, and just make it gritty. He's just a very tough dude. He's got that Mexican fighting spirit. spirit. Great lead left hook. He throws this lead left hook with a lot of power. I know he hurt Royval and Askarov with that one. Good fight to look at for this was his fight against Askarov, who is a Dagestani, who has the wrestling but also has the grappling that Amir Albazi possesses as well. So I do think that Brandon Moreno is going to be able to push the pace higher than Amir Albazi. I think Amir Albazi hasn't fought anybody that's as well-rounded and able to push the pace as Moreno. I know Moreno had fits in his last fight against Brandon Royval, but that was a short-notice fight for him. And Royval kind of possesses the same thing that Moreno does. He's very long, very good striker, moves in and out well, very long. Southpaw, which wasn't really good for Moreno, is negating his jab. Just didn't seem like Moreno really was prepared for that type of opponent switch and wasn't able to really get his striking going in that fight. So I know Moreno just switched to a very boxing-centric gym. That's another thing that concerns me about him is he's constantly switching gyms. But I think him moving to a new gym that's very boxing-centric, going to keep his boxing crisp for this fight against Amir Albazi. I think he'll have the striking advantage, maybe not the power advantage, but I think he'll have the striking and the scrambling advantage. And I think if it goes to the ground, he's got the scrambling ability and the jiu-jitsu offense and defense from guard to get back up to the feet and keep the fight where he wants it, depending on how it's going. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Brandon Moreno in this one. Hoping to get my keep my streak going for main event picks since I started this channel. So good night of fights. Not a lot of crazy underdogs. I checked the odds today. It looked like some of them were growing a little bit, but last time I checked, I think the biggest favorite was like a minus 300, which is pretty crazy. The UFC usually has pretty big odd swings, so a lot of opportunity for some dogs on this card. But we'll see. So appreciate it, guys. See you next time.